This video is sponsored by Surfshark, the best VPN on the market. Surfshark is an app or browser extension that allows you to change your location to access websites in other countries and keep you safe from hackers. For example, we here in Ireland can access other countries' Netflix libraries, streaming services such as DAZN in Spain for those all-important Premier League games. Surfshark keeps you safe and private by protecting everything you do online. When your device connects to the internet, all that information is, in a way, blurred out. Surfshark is particularly useful for keeping you safe if you use public Wi-Fi, such as a college or a cafe. Surfshark allows you to use one subscription on unlimited devices, meaning that you can even share an account with friends and family. On top of this, Surfshark offers a 30-day money-back guarantee, so if you don't like it, you can even get your money back. Our sign-up offer gives you Surfshark VPN for just over €2 per month and up to 4 months free. Why not scan the QR code on screen or use the link in the description to take advantage of this offer. What is up, my friends? How are we? I missed you all yesterday, but it's great to be back with you again tonight. Of course, we have a huge game to look forward to tomorrow. The Reds taking on Xabi Alonso's Real Madrid. A reminder, it's an 8 p.m. kickoff, which means we'll be live here on the channel from 6:45 to take you through the game. Shout out to our sponsor, Surfshark, as well. Don't forget, if you ever are in need of a VPN service, look no further. We've been working with Surfshark for, well, a few years now and really do appreciate their continued support. Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, I put a poll in early tonight to kick us off, basically just asking, building on a conversation we had in the podcast earlier on, who do you consider to be Liverpool's starting right back if you were to choose between Conor Bradley and Jeremy Frimpong? And we'll check in on that one in a while. I want to just touch on something that Mark said again in the chat, and again, I didn't know this until Mark just seen it, or put it in, excuse me, but Michael Oliver apparently is on VAR for the game against Manchester City at the weekend, and I have to say, that just feels like they're taunting us at this point. You know, he should be nowhere near a Liverpool Manchester City game. Nowhere near it, because it has shown us over the years he's very one-sided. Let's just say that. He's very one-sided, and when you're getting praised by the likes of Kyle Walker for your brave decisions, yeah, it's it's going to be a weird one, that. Oliver on VAR. I'm not expecting to get anything from that VAR hub, shall we say, for that game, but it is what it is, I guess. So yeah, look, tonight we're going to go through and give you some of the press conference notes. We're going to talk about some players that Liverpool are interested in. We're going to kick off with a conversation actually about Hillsborough's Law, which has been, well, all but passed today. We'll take you through some stuff around that in a moment. Some suggestions from a referee on what we could do to, well, improve the game. I want to take you through some of those and see what you think. I want to just start off, though, with Keir Starmer has introduced a Hillsborough Law into Parliament. Now, it needs to be voted through. The Public Office Accountability Bill, which will force public officials and contractors to tell the truth in the aftermath of disasters and investigating bodies. This is what Keir Starmer had to say. I want to begin this debate with a simple acknowledgement, long overdue, that the British state failed the families and victims of Hillsborough to an almost inhuman level. Those victims and their families, their strength, their courage, their refusal to give up, a determination no matter what was thrown at them to fight for people they'll never know or meet, to make sure that they never go through something like this again. They are the reason we stand here today with this bill. They are the reason why it will be known as the Hillsborough Law, and they are the reason why we say clearly again what should have been said immediately, that their loved ones were unlawfully killed and that they never bore any responsibility for what happened in Sheffield that day. We can say it at the dispatch box today. So there you can see Keir Starmer just basically confirming what we knew was going to happen, that Hillsborough Law will be voted and signed into law very, very soon. And look, we know what the Hillsborough families have been through to get justice, and I just wanted to bring that up today because it just popped into my news feed before I came on, and I wanted to let you guys know about it. Right, so tomorrow, what are we thinking? For me, this is the lesser of the two games this week, importance-wise. Now, I'm not saying I don't want to beat Real Madrid, but if I could cherry pick one win this week, I'd have to say I'd edge to the league game, because I think we've got less wiggle room in the Premier League than we do in the Champions League. That being said, I want to talk tonight about my stance as well on the manager and where I'm at, so I will do that in a moment. This one here, 9 months, by the way, Cian. Thank you, man. 9 months with us. Really appreciate that. I hope we get back on track with wins, said Keane. So do I, mate. So do I. But look, that kind of leads me nicely into what I wanted to start the stream with tonight. So, regular viewers of the channel will know where my stance has been with the manager over the last month or so. And I said that if he loses 2 of the next 3 games, I'm going to say that Arne Slot has to go. I have to say I've revised that, and here's why. I looked at the game against Aston Villa at the weekend, and the one thing that had me most concerned, it wasn't the results, believe it or not. It was the performance and whether the players were actually working for the manager. And I'd seen enough now in that Aston Villa game to know that the answer to that question is yes. They are very much still playing for the manager. And I also want to caveat it by saying, even in the best of times, when Liverpool are at their very best, having Real Madrid and Manchester City in the same week is never going to be easy. So unless an absolute catastrophe happens and we revert back to looking like we just met each other, there's no way I'm going to be edging towards Arne out, because honestly, that Aston Villa game answered a lot of questions for me that I had. And I'm not trying to say it was the perfect performance, and I'm not trying to say Arne shouldn't be under some pressure, but I seen enough there to know that the players are still behind him, and that was my biggest concern. I know other people talked about his tactics, talked about formations and stuff like that. I was just more concerned that the players weren't playing for the manager or potentially weren't listening to the manager anymore. And although the Villa result wasn't perfect, it was far improved from what we'd seen. And it gave me a very clear indication that the players are playing for the manager. And I hope we can build on it. You know, I'm not going to sit here and tell you it was the perfect performance. It wasn't. We could have been 1-0 down early doors. We know that. Georgie also pulled off a good save and from Matty Cash's shot to hit off Virgil's leg. But again, I'd seen enough in the players to know that they are still playing for the manager. So that's where I'm at with the manager at the minute. Now, that doesn't say losing 6 and 7 is acceptable. But like I've said, it is a fluid situation. Everybody can make up their own mind. But regardless of what happens over the next 2 games, I'm pretty much happy with where we are. Because, yeah, there's going to be some up and downs this season. But we needed to stop the rot, and he did that. Not to say that I'm not unhappy with certain things, but I just want to make it clear where I am, because these next 2 games are going to be tough regardless. David said, evening Craig and our lovely community, I want to win tomorrow and Sunday. So Connor said to me, David, maybe 5 days ago, that he thinks we're going to win all 3. Now, Connor's only ever come out with what I would call an outlandish statement like that once before to me. He said we were going to beat Manchester City home and away in the Champions League, and we did. So I'm not doubting him. But for me, look, I think we're going to face a very different Madrid tomorrow than we faced last season. A Madrid that are have fewer injuries for a start, and a Madrid that are just playing better. So I don't know what to expect result-wise tomorrow. I'm excited by it. I think it's going to be a really cool game. I think Anfield's going to be absolutely up for it. But truth is, I really don't know where I'm at with expecting a scoreline or a result. Because it could be anything, you know, it could be a score draw. Liverpool could win, Madrid could win. I'm excited by it, and I'm interested to see what the manager does team selection wise, because of course we have Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, 5 days to recover before Manchester City. Will Trent play? No, I don't think he starts. All the reports suggest that Fede Valverde is going to start for Real Madrid. Now, they still say Trent isn't up to 100% yet, but it looks like he's going to be on the bench based off the reports we're seeing today anyway. Ollie said, it's still disgraceful. He set us up to lose, and that is disgraceful. See, that is the thing that really is lingering with me, mate. I'm not going to lie, dude. That's the thing that I really can't get past yet. Because I don't like throwing away any tournament at any point, let alone what we did midweek. So I'm still annoyed about that. I can't get past it, but you know, it's been and gone. It is what it is, and we got the win against Aston Villa, and I hope we see another improved performance tomorrow. Tobias, lovely to see you, sir. Haven't been here for quite a while. Always good to be back. Wishing for better circumstances, though. Yeah, it's not been the greatest last month or so, Tobias, has it? Lovely to see you back in, my man. 19 months with us as a member as well. Always do appreciate your support, sir. Billy Beckner said, what injuries do we have for tomorrow? Well, Isak is ruled out. That's 100% he's ruled out. Jones has started back training. Whether he's in the matchday squad tomorrow or not sure. Frimpong is out and Allison is out. So other than that, I think we are pretty much good to go. Yeah, the Isak one's going to be interesting. He said there's a chance if he trains, maybe for the Manchester City game, but yeah, that's pretty much where we're at with injuries. Glenn said, Craig, what do you think of only one game being played? St. Stephen's Day here in Ireland, Boxing Day in the UK. You said it's a load of bollocks, and that's pretty much where I'm at with it, mate. Look, I hate Christmas Day for a whole host of different reasons, but my biggest gripe with Christmas Day is I find it very boring, right? Because you do the family stuff. My kids are grown up really now, so we don't need to do the Santy stuff. Then you've got your dinner, and there's nothing to do. So I always find Christmas Day really boring, and I kind of look forward to the day after. Now we call it St. Stephen's Day here in Ireland, or Stephen's Day in the UK, call it Boxing Day, and I look forward to a feast of football. I do. So yeah, one game, I think United are playing that day if my memory's right. Yeah, it sucks. And I think it's because of the day it fell on. They say next year that there will be more games back, but yeah, there should be more football, mate. It's it's a tradition, and I like to tune in and watch lots of games that day. So yeah, a little bit disappointed, but it is what it is, I guess. Coleman said, rather have Valverde at right back against us because he won't be as effective for his team. Well, look, Trent hasn't been that effective full stop for Real Madrid since he's gone there. So, yeah, we'll see what happens. Craig Adams said 3-0 win tomorrow. 29 months with us as a member as well, dude. Appreciate your support. I'll tell you what, dude, if it's 3-0 win tomorrow, you'll see a very, very happy Craig here after the game. But I love the optimism. I just don't know if I don't know if I match that optimism, to be honest with you. Harry, how are we, sir? Aberdeen and Liverpool fan. I can't wait for Calvin to start. Good, nice to see you win. I don't know when we'll see Calvin Ramsey back in the first team squad again, to be honest with you. Surprised because we had two keepers against Aston Villa on the bench. Surprised that we didn't have him as one of them. So, something I want to say, actually, a lot of people have been noticing I've been crossing my arms a bit more lately and saying it's unlike me in the comments. It's to help my shoulder. So if you do see me ever crossing my arms in the next, week or so, it's just my shoulder's healing up, and that gives me a bit of relief from pain for a moment when I cross it. So it's not because I'm bored or anything like that, if you're trying to read my body language. There's NFL games on Christmas Day now. Or remember that last year, no lie, Eli. I was very pleasantly surprised at that. So yeah, I'll be tuning into the NFL. Definitely will, mate. That'll be saving the Christmas. Chad, always a pleasure, sir. Always a pleasure. Chad's the gentleman that always sends me over all the cool Nebraska stuff. So if you ever see me wearing a Nebraska hoodie or jersey, it's thanks to this gentleman here. Hey, Greg, hope all is well. Real Madrid has so much speed. I'm nervous about the back line. They do. Look, there's no denying that. I'm expecting to see Kirkes play the game tomorrow. And I'm not saying Robbo shouldn't be starting. I just think because of two things. The pace, like you've said. I think Milos Kirkes better fit there. And also, I don't think Andy Robertson's going to be able to play 4 games in 13 days. So I'm expecting Kirkes to start the game. And of course, Bradley on the right-hand side. It's going to be interesting to see, if Real Madrid show up and play with a swagger and confidence, or if Anfield can get in their head and we can get another big result. Not really sure what to expect, Chad, in all honesty, but it is an interesting one. And look, it's a huge game, isn't it? I like what Xabi Alonso said. It's basically the European El Clasico with two huge sides, two, storied sides, Real Madrid and Liverpool. And fingers crossed we can get a decent result. Carl said, I did wonder why you crossed your arms more. Yeah, it's just to ease the pain in my shoulder, mate. It's getting a lot better than it was. I mean, when I did the show in Liverpool, I was very, very, very full of painkillers. And I've been trying to manage it since then. But getting there, my man. So if you do see me do it, it's not because I'm bored or anything. It's just to relieve some pain. No, like Eli said, Vinny is in good form. He looked great in El Clasico. I think we'll be surprised tomorrow I see us winning, said Coleman. I hope you're right. Nomad said, I hope Milos doesn't run around like a headless chicken. Yeah, he will, yeah. He will. So, there's lots that I want to talk about tonight. A couple of transfer links. So I want to start off with build on something we spoke about on the podcast earlier on. I'm starting to hear a little bit of chatter. Now, please do not take this as me saying this is a player we're signing. But there is a little bit of chatter starting to appear more around Ousmane Diomande as a potential backup if the Mark Gay situation doesn't pan out. So do keep an eye on that one. We discussed it a little bit on the podcast earlier on with myself, Chris and Connor. Chris a bit nervy about the idea of going in there and bringing in another player from the Portuguese league. Understandable after, the Darwin situation. But for me, I'd be comfortable enough with Diamonde. We spoke about Gonzalo Ignacio and Diamonde gone back maybe 2 years ago. And Diamonde was always the better of the two, in my opinion. And now with us needing somebody on that right side, I think Diamonde would be good if, of course, we couldn't get Mark A, who I think should be our number one choice. Also, there was a link today to a player from Fulham, which I'll move on to speak about in a moment. Right, the poll. Let's have a look at this one so far. So we've had 800 votes. If you haven't voted yet, the question we kicked off with tonight is, who do you consider our starting right back, Bradley or Frimpong? Kean said, who's ready for Bradley's usual slide tackle on Mbappe? It's still one of my favourite moments, mate. That tackle is epic. Absolutely epic. I love it. I am the Oyster King. Said, I think Gay should be our attention for the drama of what the club gave him. Give us the chance to sell him like a good professional club does it. So the problem with Mark Gay is everybody outside of the Premier League can talk with him, or everybody outside of England can talk with him in January. So Real Madrid, Bayern Munich, Barcelona, who are all looking at and in need of centre-backs, they can all openly talk with him and get him to sign that pre-contract. Liverpool can't do that. What Liverpool could do, of course, is try to buy him from Crystal Palace. But two things I would say about that. One, Steve Parish has pretty much said that they'd rather keep him. And also, I don't know if the player himself would want to move mid-season. I'm sure I remember something in an interview with him where he said he wanted to see the season out wherever he was. So, obviously came to Liverpool, didn't want any change, staying at Palace for the season. I don't know if he moves. That's why I'm saying about the pre-contract thing. I think if somebody else does get that commitment for him to sign in the summer, I feel like a big kick in the teeth to us. But, it is what it is. That's football. I have that tackle on my phone background. Yeah, it's an epic one, man. It's absolutely epic. So there's a gentleman who did a painting of it that's really, really cool as well. It's just such an iconic thing. If I'm Conor Bradley, I'm having that image framed in the house anyway. Can somebody please explain why we can't get Gay to sign an early contract, but other clubs can? So you can always... How do I say this? I think the easiest way to explain it is Real Madrid, Barcelona, or anybody outside of the Prem or England don't have to even inform Crystal Palace that they're having a conversation with Mark Gay or his agent because he's into that last 6 months of his contract. Now, of course, Liverpool can get him to sign an agreement, but they'd have to go through Crystal Palace. So you'd have to get the okay from Palace to talk to Mark Gay and his representative, whereas the others, they don't even have to be informed about it. That's the big difference. But there's nothing stopping Liverpool trying to go down that route. Like I said, I just don't know. I don't know where we're fixed with it. I remember James Pearce saying something along the lines of, Mark Gay will be a Liverpool player, whether it was last summer or whether it's going to be next summer. And I hope that still stands because he would be a good fit. Cal said, Craig, was at the game on Tuesday. Don't think the TV showed it, but Gomez spent 10 minutes talking alone to Gay after the game on the pitch. Interesting. Sweet. That's good to hear, Cal. Thank you. I was keeping an eye out because I'd seen there was a little conversation with Virgil, if I remember correctly. No, not Virgil, because he was on the pitch, with Arna. I think there was a little conversation with Arna, or at least they acknowledged each other after the game. So interesting to say they had a nice long conversation. Hopefully, as you said, Cal, hopefully there's something to it. You all right, Craig? Oh, Alex, I'm good, sir. I'm good, yeah. Can't complain, my man. Good. It's really cold out today. My God, the weather's shocking outside. Right, let's talk about that player that I mentioned. So this report here from Football Insider said that Liverpool are closely monitoring Fulham's recent signing, Kevin, following his strong start to the season. The Reds recently dispatched their chief scout to observe the 22-year-old forward who joined Fulham from Shakhtar Donetsk for 34.6 million over the summer. Although the Brazilian under-20 international is still waiting for his first goal, his dribbling and creativity have caught the eye in recent weeks. Lads, I'm going to say I know nothing about this dude. I didn't even know he was in the Premier League. That's how little I know about Kevin. Yeah, I obviously didn't pay too much attention to Fulham's transfer business in the summer. But is there anybody in the chat who's been keeping an eye on him? Because hand on heart, I know zero about this dude, let alone whether he'd be anywhere near the levels required to come into Liverpool. Haven't got a clue. But we are being linked. Has the mouse gone? Yes, I think so. Didn't hear him yesterday. And we had the same thing last year as well. Exact same wall. It's a stud wall in between the stairs and the living room. And yeah, last year we had the same thing. A little mouse in there. You could hear the and then yeah, but I haven't heard it since. So don't know if he's gone outside or he's brown bread. But either way, haven't heard from him in a bit. Just Matt said, let's show love for Trent. Let's not. Now, I'm not saying anybody should hate on Trent, but my view on these situations is always just pretend like he doesn't exist. You know, I don't want vitriol towards anybody, but in this situation, to me, fuck him. You know, he's not a Liverpool player. He made his decision. I'd never urge anybody to boo a player, but if he comes onto the pitch, I hope he gets the same treatment as any other opposition player, because that's what he is right now. And, you know, that's my take on it. Certainly wouldn't boo, but just in my head, he doesn't exist. Simple as that. He's just another Real Madrid player. Who's better, Saliba or Gabriel? I probably don't watch enough of them to give you a definitive answer, because I only see Arsenal match of the day stuff, maybe the odd Champions League game, and when we play them. If I had to pick one at Liverpool, I'd go with Saliba, but I think Gabriel is the more physical defender. Saliba seems the more classy kind of defender, if you get me. But yeah, I'd say Saliba if I had to pick one of them. But they're a very good pairing for Arsenal, very good centre-back pairing, and I'm still nervous about what happens with our own centre-back pairing. We are now here in November, so we're a month and a half, 2 months away from Canada being able to do the same thing as Mark A, which is sign a pre-contract agreement with any club outside of the Premier League or outside of England, and that still makes me really nervous because don't know what the hell's going on. Don't know what's going on. So that's another reason it's very difficult to talk about January signings or what Liverpool are going to do, because we haven't got a clue what's going on there with Canada. I've no idea what to expect, whether to expect a contract extension or whether he's gone. Gut feeling leaning to he's gone, but don't know anything on it. So I have no idea what to expect, like I keep saying. But let's say for a second he does go, right? So if we can't get an extension with him and he does go, we're then down to Gomez, who probably is going to leave next summer, Van Dijk and Leone. That's incredibly worrying. Liverpool are probably going to have to go out there now and bring in two centre-backs, and two very, very good centre-backs, maybe even more. You could make an argument, maybe three. Like, if Gomez does go next summer, and if Canade doesn't renew, you could make an argument for three that needs to be brought in. Did Trent sign a pre-contract? No, he was sold for 10 million in the summer. He was going on a free, and then Liverpool got 10 million euro, I think, out of Real Madrid because they wanted him to play in the Club World Cup. So they basically got 10 million euro for sending him a month early. Joseph said, "Hey Craig, thoughts on Ekitike so far? Bit of a stupid question, but I thought I'd ask." No, it's not a stupid question, mate. You're perfectly entitled to ask it. I've been really impressed. Yeah, really impressed. Wasn't really sure what to expect when we signed Hugo Ekitike. Not really followed his career after that move to PSG. I'd always known that Newcastle were interested in him, but I have to say, really, really impressed with what I've seen. I mentioned this a couple of times, but when I was over at the United game, when he came on the pitch, the atmosphere just lifted. The energy levels inside Anfield just lifted. He feels like a good fit. And, I hope everyone's seeing what I'm seeing, which is a player who feels like he wants to prove a point, who feels like he wants to be the main guy, and who knows now he has an opportunity with Isak out to cement his starting place there for the foreseeable. So, yeah, really, really pleased with him. Di Marzo said, the way VVD has been lately is unusual. I think he's sick of the lack of loyalty in the club. I feel he knows Canale wants Madrid and is still upset about Trent as well from his recent comments on Trent. Yeah, so I think I have this comment. So he was asked about Trent's return to Anfield and he said, let's see what the reception is. I'm not going to say. I'm not going to comment on that. Do the media want it to be hostile? I think he's been outstanding in his time at Liverpool. That's the only thing I can say. I think on top of that, he was asked, has he been speaking to Trent before the game? And he said, no, I live my life and he lived his life in Madrid. He adds, Trent's a very gifted player and he was important for us. I was very happy to have him, but now he's an opponent on Tuesday. So, yeah, look, I get what you're saying about maybe Virgil looking around and seeing some players leaving or not. I don't know, but some of the things he's been saying haven't been sitting well with me recently. The outside noise stuff and all of this just kind of, I don't want my captain acknowledging it. I want him to just say, we're going to be better. We're fighting together. We're pulling in the right direction. I think if you're acknowledging the likes of what Rooney said or some of the outside noise, it shows it's getting to you. And I don't want that from the big man. So, yeah, just been a little bit confused with some of the stuff he said lately. When is Isak fit to play? Don't know. He's not back training just yet. So, if he trains during the week, there's a chance, of course, that he could be available for the Manchester City game. But, yeah, I don't know. Who would be the best man to manage Liverpool now? Well, Arne. He's the manager. I don't mean to give you a cop-out answer, Tobias, but he's the manager, so he's the best one to do it. We had this conversation during the week and I was honest and said, I haven't really thought about post-Arne yet because I don't know who would look at. I don't know who would be up to the job. I don't know. I don't know if there's many top managers out there. So, honestly, nobody. Outside of Klopp maybe coming back, nobody that I can think of. There's some decent coaches that we could discuss, but I'm more hoping and a bit more upbeat that he turns it around. Liam said, I had a dream that Jones turns Trent on the edge of the box and puts him on his arse and then sticks one top corner. Well, he's back training, so there's a chance that we could see Curtis Jones. I wouldn't expect him to be starting the game, but there's a chance he's in the squad anyway. No, Trent isn't injured. No, he's not. He's back in the Madrid team. Or I should say the Madrid squad. They reckon Valverde is going to start and that Trent will be on the bench. So this from Madrid Extra said, Fede Valverde will start at right back. Trent still needs time to be at 100%. And they credit Dario AS with that. Then there's another report from Marca that said Xabi Alonso will repeat the El Clasico starting 11 against Liverpool tomorrow. Fervid said, Craig, thoughts on Macca's drop in form? I know you're a big fan, as am I. I think the team is much better when he's in top form. So, he was better. I thought he was horrendous again against... who did we play in the League Cup? Sorry, my mind's gone here. Who beat us in the League Cup? I can't believe I can't remember. Palace, right? Yeah. Jeez, my head's all over the shop, sorry. I thought he was horrendous in that game, but he was surrounded by a lot of unfamiliar players. I thought he was better at the weekend against Villa on Saturday night, and I thought justified Arne's choice to play him. The problem that I have is, unless we're going to start moving Wirtz out to the left side, as Chris suggested earlier on, that midfield three is going to be very difficult to keep everybody happy. I know there's plenty of games, over 60 games, but if Mac is fit, I think he has to be in the 11. But then again, I'm probably going to say that about Szoboszlai and Gravenberch, so the only way maybe you can shoehorn Wirtz in there is to put him on the left-hand side, which I'm interested to see if he does that tomorrow. we were going through in the podcast earlier on some of our predicted 11s or our thoughts for the game. And Chris seems to think that we'll stick with the same midfield, the one that we won the league with last year, and then Wirtz on the left. I think he could be right, because Cody, we're an injury from Cody away from being in trouble. And that's whatever you think about Cody Gakpo's season so far. If he picked up an injury and Salah was at the AFCON, I don't even want to think about how much trouble we'd be in for a lack of forward options. You know, there's Rio Ngamoa, who's still a youngster coming through, and then there's Isak, who's not fit, Ekitike and Salah, who's going to be off at the AFCON, and then Chiesa, who the manager doesn't want to play. So, you know, will we see him start on the left tomorrow and then maybe rest Gakpo for the game against Manchester City at the weekend? If he does need to give Gakpo rest, then I'd say that's probably the sensible way to do it. Cal said, Craig, with Mo and Verge in their twilight, why are the next players we build a team around? For me, it's Grav Wirtz. Oh, who? Sorry, I'm going to choose again, Cal, because I'm blind. Craig, with Mo and Verge in their twilight, who are the next players we build a team around? For me, it's Gravenberch, Wirtz, Dom, Hugo, and strangely not Isak. So, I've had it in my head, Cal, that we'll probably lose Maka in the next 2 years. And I don't know why this has come into my head, by the way, because there's nothing I'm aware of. I just don't think he's going to be a player that we'll see at Liverpool for the rest of his career. I do think he'll have another chapter, maybe in Spain. So I would say Gravenberch, Szoboszlai, Wirtz, Bradley, Kerkez. These are the future. We have Liverpool, Rio Ngamoa, Trainioni. Bajcetic is back training as well, by the way, which is good news. You know, they're the future of Liverpool. Ekitike, Isak. I know you said, strangely, you wouldn't build a team around Isak, but you don't spend that much money on a player and then just throw in the towel. So I think we've got to find a way to utilise both of them. And I've seen mixed reviews from people, pundits, fans, whether they think we can play Ekitike and Isak together. I think he can find a way. And I think it would be unfair to drop Ekitike either way, because he's been incredible since he's come in. So yeah, they're roughly the players I think we should be building around. And then, of course, we need Leone to be in that mix as well when he's back fit. World of Naturalist said, seems like there's contract talks with Dom and Ryan, but no news for Maka, so likely Maka may leave. So, just thinking about it numerically, as I was trying to do the other day, I could see a world where, let's just say, throw a name out there, let's say Adam Wharton, just for a minute. I could see a world where Liverpool go in there to get another midfielder from a defensive set, and then let somebody like Maka go. I'm not saying it's the right thing to do, but numerically, I could see a world where it happens, because we have Ryan Gravenberch, who's a deeper line playmaker, but we don't have that enforcer. We don't have somebody to really protect the back four. So if you were to bring that defensive midfielder in, I just don't know where you get the minute for the rest of the lads, because then you'd have McAllister, Szoboszlai, Jones and Wirtz. And that's before you look at the likes of Stefan Bajcetic, Trainioni, or younger players coming in. I don't see where everybody gets those minutes. So it's probably the one area of the pitch where I think we're well enough stacked, but still lacking in one particular subset of a player, which is that real defensive midfielder. So is there a world where we get Camavinga as an example and Maka goes in the other direction? Honestly, I don't know. But yeah, that's kind of where my head's at, because I'm looking at Dominic Szoboszlai, and honestly, I'm seeing the potential future Liverpool captain there when Verge hangs up his boots or when Verge moves on. That's how highly I regard him and how impressed I've been. 25 years of age now, and just looking like he's running the show in there. More than deserving of that number 8 shirt as well. Then you've got Ryan Gravenberch, who's incredible and only going to get better. You've got young players like Wirtz as well, who's come in at 22. So if you're building that spine of a team, Maka's what, 26, 27? I could see a world where Liverpool maybe cash in on him if a big offer comes in and reinvest that into a defensive-minded player. We do need depth at centre-back. We need depth in wide areas as well. So I wanted to talk a little bit tonight about what January's transfer window may look like. Nola Eli says, you can see why we wanted to spend Wirtz money on Caicedo. He's almost the perfect 6. He is brilliant. Brilliant. Look, I'm not trying to say Ryan Gravenberch hasn't been an amazing player for us we love Ryan, and he's been an absolute bargain for the money we paid. But yeah, being so close to that Caicedo signing, and then obviously him going to Chelsea, and now we're seeing how good he really, really is. Still stings. Still stings. I remember that night like it was yesterday. Well, when we did that stream, it was such a crazy day because of course there was the midnight sealed bids thing, and we thought we'd got him. And I really, really often I sit back and wonder what may have been. But then you look at what we brought in with the money. Gravenberch, Soboslai. It wasn't a shabby window, was it? And I forgot Endo. When I was talking about midfielders, by the way, I forgot to mention Endo. But again, I really don't see Endo as somebody who plays or starts many games for us. Gino, how are we, sir? 16 months as a member as well, Gino. Really appreciate that. Hey, Craig, would I take Joe Bellingham? No. And here's why. So I have to caveat this with a really obvious statement, Gino, is I don't know the Bellingham family, but the arrogance stinks. Like, the parents being banned from the Borussia Dortmund training room or changing room because of unhappiness about certain things. It's just the entitlement stinks whenever I see anything Bellingham. His attitude, his older brother to the referees is shocking when I see it. And I would have loved him at Liverpool, by the way, but sometimes I'm wondering, would he have been the right type of character in our team? Because the way he's carried on at Madrid, I couldn't see that being put up with at Liverpool. And Job, is he that good? Really? Yeah, don't know, but no. And the short answer is no. But I don't think he's going to reach the level of his brother. Right. Saudi allegedly offered 150 million for Salah in January. Now's the time. That was last January that they offered that money. Look, we're not going to get rid of Mo in January, and anybody thinking that needs to just give their head a wobble, because he signed on and committed to 2 years because he wanted to continue to break records and achieve and win stuff at Liverpool. I'm not saying there isn't a world where maybe next summer he revisits it. I don't know. But it isn't going to be in January. He'll be at the AFCON and then he'll be back to Liverpool. So that isn't going to happen. With regards to bringing in somebody in January, yes, I agree. I don't know who that player may be. I'm also not sure what to expect in January in the window, because me, Connor and Chris listed off our priority list earlier on, and it's slightly changed for me a little bit. It's centre-back number 1, wide player number 2, and then defensive midfielder number 3 on my list of priorities. And I can understand us not signing any of those positions apart from centre-back in January. If we go through and don't bring in a centre-back in January, I just won't be able to comprehend it. I won't be able to understand how or why, because there's no part of me that looks at the squad now and doesn't think we're short there. And that's, again, without an injury to Virgil or Canade. Because right now we've got no rotational options. You can say Joe Gomez, but he's been shaky in the 2 games he's been on. So we're screwed in that regard. We've got to get a centre-back in. We've got an international break coming up after this week. Then after that, we're back to the end of this month. One more flat-out month in December. And I hope to God we get a centre-back in January early doors, because it's going to be a long season if we don't. It really is. And normally, in a World Cup year, I wouldn't expect too many players to be moving in the January window, unless maybe it's a country that isn't going to be taking part in the World Cup. But I'm unsure what to expect. I really am. Like, you guys tell me, are you expecting much business in the January window? Because I haven't got a clue what to expect there. I know what I want. I know what I think we need, but I really don't know what to expect. James said, I always got the feeling at the start of the summer it was going to be too good to be true, and now I'm seeing it. Do you agree? No, I don't agree. I'm not disagreeing that it hasn't been good enough yet, James. But like I said, we will, I think, and I hope, look back at that transfer window in 2 years' time and still think of it as incredible. I know we have to wait for Isak to get fit and get up to speed. I know Wirtz hasn't done the hit the ground running as much as we would have wanted. But I've no doubts. The only summer transfer I have a doubt over is Frimpong, and that's not because of the lad's quality. That's just because I don't know where the hell he plays for us, and I don't know where he's going to be a natural fit for us. Outside of that, I've got no concerns about the summer transfer business, except for we didn't get a centre back. I rate every player we brought in. I know Kirkes hasn't done well, but I've no doubt that he will settle in, and we'll see the best of him in the next 2, 3, 4 years. Wirtz, look, I still say there's a potential Ballon d'Or winner in there, and I'm absolutely convinced he comes good. Ekitike has already shown us what he can do. Isak, the concern I have with Isak is us finding a way to get the best out of him. It's not whether he's good enough or not. That almost feels like a potential egotistical signing at this point. And I was fully on board with it. I'm not trying to rewrite history here and say I wasn't as up for it, excited as Isak or everybody else, but in a world where we brought in Ekitike, could we have maybe rejigged a little bit and gone for a different type of forward? Perhaps. You'd still be arguing we're centre forward short there. Jayden Dance hasn't been able to stay fit either, so it's not like we could have progressed him through. But yeah, no, I think the window was brilliant, mate, and I will only ever think of it that way because look at the names we brought in. It's just taken longer than we would have all wanted for it to gel. And no, like Eli said, Caicedo is now starting to show world-class performances week in and week out. Players need time to adapt. Exactly, and he was coming within the Premier League. He was going from Brighton there to Chelsea, and look, now he's just incredible. So, yeah, give our players some time. I know we won't get the same levels of patience from the outside world, but we've got to just look back and think, Fabinho took time, Robbo took time, Szoboszlai took time. It happens. So I've no doubt these guys will come good. Right, let's end this poll because it's been pretty clear. 85% of you guys think Connor Bradley is the starting right back, and I'm with you. And not because, again, I really don't have anything against Frimpong as either a player or a guy. In fact, he looks like an absolute sound fella. But I just don't know where he fits for us. I just don't know where Arne is going to play him because I don't think he's a right back. And he has had a couple of attempts on the right wing and hasn't really worked too well. So I'm kind of unsure where he fits into the whole setup at Liverpool. Callum, I don't know who hurt you, mate, but it'll be all right. Like, first it was a double chin, now it's a triple chin. Ha 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 ha. Yeah, it's because all that extra money I'm making, mate. I have to fill my face full of food from all the money I'm making, be the most watched Liverpool fan in the world. It's tough going, Callum, but don't worry. You'll never have to worry about it, dude. And like I said, I can get rid of the fat. You can't get rid of the moron. So enjoy life. Carry on watching. I'll carry on doing what I do. And who knows? Maybe I'll have fortunes the next time you come in. These people always make me laugh so much because all you'd ask if you see me was for a photo or an autograph. Simple as that. Same as your parents, because I'm sure you're probably about 10, because no grown-ass adult thinks fat jokes are funny. But like I said, mate, you carry on and crack on. And someday, maybe someday, we'll meet and you get to say these things to me. Hey Craig, I hope you're well. Need a Schlotterbeck and Gay, then 3-4-2-1 gets the best out of our new signings like fullbacks, Hugo and Flo, in my opinion. I think we all focus too much on formations. I really, really do. Like, we're obsessed about what formation we play when the truth is the formation often changes multiple times inside a game. To play three at the back, you need 6 centre-backs in my opinion, and we're struggling to put 3 out there at the minute, and 4 if Leone came back from injury. So I just don't see a world where Arne switches to it because we just don't have the depth at centre-back to do it. I do think, by the way, for what it's worth, it would be a system that could get the best out of some of our players, like you've said. Milos Kerkez, Jeremy Frimpong, those type of things I see exactly where you're coming from, maybe even a bit more protection. But again, this isn't a manager who's looked like he's going to change system. So the interesting thing for me right now is where does Wirtz end up playing week in, week out? What becomes his position? Is he going to be, the guy ahead of 2 deeper lying midfielders in, let's say, Gravenberch and Maka, or Gravenberch and Szoboszlai? Is he going to drift off the left a little bit? I'm not sure, but I'm intrigued to find out. We know he was told he was going to be the number 10. So, let's hope the manager still feels that way. People at Craig Houlden, it's just so childish, isn't it? Like, what are we in? It's 2025 and we're still making fat jokes. I'm 44 years of age, mate. I couldn't give a fuck whether I have excess weight or not. Like, it bothers me not one bit. I'm married, 25 years with my missus, 2 kids. Life's good for me. If I have a few extra pounds, so be it. It doesn't bother me in the slightest. Bring on the ball jokes next. I mean, either way, it is what it is, like I said. You're here watching me and not the other way around. Chad said, what is the latest betting line for Vinny throwing a temper tantrum tomorrow night? He's such a good player, but I wouldn't be able to handle his tantrums if I were his manager. Well, he was taken off the Classico at 70 minutes and went down the tunnel with a bit of a cob on. Look, I don't know Vinicius Jr., so it's not fair for me to judge him. What I will say is he's been through a lot with some racial shit thrown at him in Spain and other places that no player should have to go through. But he does feel like a bit of a diva on the outside, but he's a great player as well. And that front line is, it's impressive, isn't it? But hopefully we can, if he's having a strop tomorrow, we're doing something right, Chad. So hopefully he is having a strop because, he's getting no change out of Conor Bradley or, we're frustrating him. That'll be a good thing. So I'm sure the crowd will be more than up to do their part as well. Is there any update on the studio? I can show you another photo. Bit of an update today on it. So let me just grab this one in. It's coming along nicely. Let me see if I can drag this in. Oh God, I'm so bad at getting these pictures cropped in, and I know there's a button that I can press to do it that Connor keeps telling me, but I keep forgetting which one it is. So let me just get this in for you, and I'll show you where we're at. Right, and that's still huge. There we go. So that's kind of where we're at the minute. It's pretty much watertight now. Next to be, obviously, plaster going on the outside, the proper roof going onto it. And then we start kitting it out with the electrics and all the other stuff. So, yeah, really excited by it. Not sure when I'll be in it because, like I said, I want to make sure it's absolutely 100% right before we do move into it. So, we're going to have to start measuring up for a table and we're going to have to start looking at the lighting and stuff like that soon. But, yeah, so exciting. And it's only thanks to your incredible support that this dream of mine is coming to fruition. Yeah, I'm so excited by it. And again, it's only because of you guys and your support. So thank you. It is going up fast, isn't it? Astro Cop. Yeah, it is. Once the foundations went in, man, it's flying along since then. And yeah, full credit to the lads who are building it. I look at these things and I'm very envious because, I can barely change a plug, let alone go out there and do something like that. So I see the lads out there every day working away on it. And yeah, I wish I had those type of skills, but I don't. Liam said, who would be your dream centre-back for the January window? Look, it'd be Mark Gay. But outside of Mark Gay, I think Ousmane Diomande would be who I'd be looking at, Liam. I think Palace looked at him as a Gay replacement. I don't think they could get to the numbers to make it work. He's somebody we've been tracking for a couple of years, but I'm sure there are other options. Nathan Collins, I think, is a great player, but he's got a very long-term deal there with Brentford, and he's their captain, and they have an option of 2 more years on his contract. There's the Mark Gay stuff, obviously. Murillo and Nottingham Forest will be another one that I think would be a very good acquisition, but again, you're talking a very hefty price tag. But I think they're kind of where I'm at. But again, I want to reiterate, we need to get one in January. Whatever happens, we need a centre-back in January. Craig, if you're building a studio, that must mean you'll be here with us for years to come. Not necessarily, to be honest with you. I still don't know what I'm doing after this season. I take it one season at a time. I will always make content. I will always make content. So if I do step away from Anfield Agenda and the football side of it, I will do something else. Maybe I'll try get that fourth chin and do food content. But I have a love-hate relationship with football content, because when the times are bad and people are going in on you, like the racism shit recently, that broke my fucking heart. I still can't believe that happened. I still can't believe people thought I was going to say something that never in a million years have said. So, I weigh all that up at the end of the year, as I always do. Someone asked a very clever question the other day and said, are you intentionally giving Connor more screen time now in case you do head off? Yes, to some extent, but I don't think Connor would be wanting to front the channel in the long term. So I don't know. Mate. I take it 1 year at a time, speak to my family at the end of every year and see how we go from there. We're in a good place as a channel right now, and your support means the world to me. So I can't see me packing it up at the end of the year. I probably will be here next year, but like I say, a lot can happen between now and then. Craig, would you take a draw tomorrow and win against City? Oh, 100%, Issa Judah, without any doubt. I'm not going to say I don't care what happens tomorrow, because I do. But Sunday's a more important game in my mind, because whatever happens, I can see us getting through the Champions League to the knockout stages. I think that's going to happen. But the league, we just have no more wiggle room, so we can't give up any more points. So if I could, pick one result to guarantee a win, it would be Sunday. Any update on Leone? No. He won't be back until, I'd say, honestly, next season, when we see him back on the pitch for Liverpool. And of course, there is a chance he could be back late point of the year, maybe a few minutes here or there. But ultimately, I think it'll be next summer. An ACL is a long way back. Craig, if you leave, how am I going to supposed to watch YouTube? I don't know. As I said, I am. Before that whole racism-y shit, I was in a great place. I thought I was flying, the channel was flying, I was full of confidence. But how quickly that escalated, and how quickly some people turned on me, it shocked me. And it really made me more cautious again. So it seems to be the football content world. It can be very toxic as well as being very fun. If it'll just come down to my mental health, simple as that. Let's look at what I've gone through in the last 3 months alone. Bomb threats to the venue of my live shows, threats against my family, threats against my autistic son, accusations of racism, which are the most ridiculous thing in the world, because I said the word numpty to a white referee, and cost us to cancel our Turkish holiday, lost a lot of money. My family are really upset by it. My daughter was only asked last weekend why her father's a racist at a party. I don't need that. Nobody needs that. So I just have to look after me and my family. It's as simple as that. And if people don't want me here, I don't want to be where I'm not wanted. But like I said, I don't know. My plan is to just move on, one day at a time, 1 week at a time, one stream at a time, and hopefully still enjoy it. But that's a lot to have gone through, over the last few months, and then some health issues on top of that. I don't think people quite understood how dark some of the stuff I received was. The police involved, they've arrested somebody, the threats were taken seriously. It's that was a lot to go through. And of course, you want to try to keep it away from you guys and be upbeat about it. Smile when you're on camera. But to say it took its toll would be an understatement. Who's the one team you would? Who's the one team you would and one you wouldn't want to face if we made the Champions League final? So the one team I wouldn't want to face is United. I know they're not in it this year, but ever it will be United, because imagine losing that in a final. But if you're talking about who's in it this season, who's the one team I wouldn't want to face? Probably the PSG team again, if I could avoid that. And who's the one team I would want us to face? In a weird way, Barcelona. I don't know. I just feel like I want Liverpool to prove a point against Hansi Flick's Barcelona. I had a similar thing with Xabi Alonso's Leverkusen. There was a lot of chatter about what would happen if we played Leverkusen in the Europa League that season, and I always felt we would have had to beat them. Now, I know we beat them in the Champions League the following season, but that was in a one-off at Anfield. So I often just ask myself these questions, who would I like to see us prove a point against? So Barca would be one that would jump into my head. I'll tell you. So someone said, "We want you here. When you've arrived, I'm instantly happy." Well, one thing I would say is, when I went to Liverpool, that really helped. Like, it really helped. Not only the people that came to my show over there, who were so kind, but people I met at the stadium, people that worked at Anfield. Um, it was really nice. I had so much positive feedback, and it really made me feel like there is a minority of people who have bad intentions towards us, because yeah, it was lovely. People were so nice, and it meant a lot to me over there. Wherever I was stopped or met somebody, it was more often than not, kindness that I was shown, and it was class, which really helped my confidence. The real Raging Cajun said, "You've come so far, been through so much, and achieved so much. I believe there's much more to come. Good and bad. Stay strong." Look, I hope so. I have goals like anybody else. I want this channel to have the most subscribers of any Liverpool channel. We're not there yet. I want to see if we can get a Liverpool channel to 1 million subscribers. That would be something that'd be really cool. But ultimately, I want to make you guys proud. That's why I do this. That and my family. Yeah, I'm not in this for the money. The money's only started to come in a recent couple of years, and that's great, but it's not what drives me. The money's a byproduct of the enjoyment. You guys are what keep me coming back day after day. I think I have 357,000 mates, not 357,000 subscribers. So, yeah, like I said, I love what I do. I love what I get to do. I love this as my job, and I love that you guys support us. It's just sometimes, I know I bite on stuff I shouldn't. I know I'm easy to wind up on times, but I can want to reiterate how grateful I am to be here with you. I've been there, Craig. Take care of your mental health. It's so important. Surround yourself with the people you love, and keep the circle small. I do keep my circle small, certainly. But I don't know what else to say. I don't even know how we got into this conversation tonight, by the way, because wasn't on my agenda to come in. But it is what it is, Gerald said, "Cheers, chin up, Craig. Your podcast is the best. I love listening to the podcast. Nothing to prove." Thank you, my man. I love doing the podcast this year. So happy to have the podcast back. The next episode we're going to record on Thursday. So obviously we'll take into account the Real Madrid game. We'll look ahead to the Manchester City game. If you didn't know, we recorded another episode today. It went out at about 5 o'clock, I believe. So let me know what you think. So I'm going to take a second to read you through some of the news, if that's okay, and then we'll get back into the chat. I do have a news video recorded already that's coming out at 10:45, where I basically break down the press conference, what the manager said, what Xabi Alonso had to say. So do keep an eye out for that one dropping later. Right, so Isak remained among the players absent for Liverpool as they stepped up their preparations for the Champions League showdown against Real Madrid on Tuesday, but Curtis Jones did return to training, having missed the last two games with a groin problem. Again, Madrid's own credit Marca say Alonso will repeat the El Clasico 11 versus Liverpool. Lewis Steele speaking about whether Virgil van Dijk will be speaking to Trent before Tuesday. Virgil said, "No, I live my life and he lives his life in Madrid. Trent is a very gifted player and he was important for us. I was very happy to have him, but now he's an opponent on Tuesday." Also, he said, "Let's see what the reception is. I'm not going to say that I want a hostile atmosphere. I'm not going to comment on that. Do you, the media, want it to be hostile? I think he's been outstanding in his time in Liverpool. That's the only thing I can say. Fabrizio Romano said Arne Slot confirms Isak will miss Real Madrid game. He said for Man City on Sunday, maybe he can be involved in the squad, but not training with the team. Jeremy Frimpong and Alisson will both be unavailable as well. Again, Madrid Extra say Fede Valverde will start at right back against Liverpool. Alonso said something really nice actually about Florian Wirtz, as he always does, and I wanted to read it out to you because it kind of underlines the support and the belief he has in Wirtz as a player. So he said, for sure, he will be a success. I have no doubt. It's a big challenge for him, a big change for him to come to Liverpool after so many years in Germany, his whole life. He needs to adapt, but he is a special player. The quality, the personality, competitive. So when he makes that switch, I have no doubt with Flo. He is so special, and one of the reasons I am here is because of Flo. So I'm grateful to him. Hopefully he starts showing his class. Lovely to hear that from Alonso. And imagine the boost that must give Florian Wirtz, hearing that from one of the best midfielders of his generation, who obviously coached them. And when they won the league title together there in Leverkusen. So lovely words from Alonso towards Wirtz. And again, such a class act. There was a really interesting part that I was reading on Sky about the influence of Conor Bradley and the impact that he's having on Liverpool's right-hand side. So if you don't mind, I'd like to read you out a little bit of it. And again, if you'd like to read the full article, go onto the Sky Sports app. So Conor Bradley produced his best performance of the season for Liverpool in their 2-0 win over Aston Villa at Anfield on Sunday. Nobody on the pitch won possession off the ball more times than the tenacious Northern Irish international. So again, nobody on the pitch won possession more times than Conor Bradley. But even more encouraging than his defensive display were the signs, albeit belatedly, of a partnership developing between Bradley and Mohamed Salah. The Egyptian winger has missed Trent Alexander-Arnold, but perhaps this connection can work too. The piece goes on to say that Bradley makes different movements, but there are a lot of them. No defender made more underlapping runs than he did over the weekend in the Premier League. Unlike Bradley, the next two defenders on the list actually made overlapping runs. So, again, signs there that Bradley is starting to build those relationships, and it is going to be important that he stays fit. And the manager, to be fair, said that about Conor Bradley. That is what he needs him to do, which is be able to play games every 3 days. So, vintage football shirt fans, we might have some good news coming soon. So Footy Headlines can exclusively reveal that Adidas will continue to deep dive into the archives for Liverpool's 2026 collection. The new pre-match shirt and anthem jacket, set to be used in the second half of the 25-26 season, will once again be inspired by the iconic Adidas EQT equipment era from the early 1990s. While no images of the new items have leaked yet, they are expected to draw heavily from the bold designs and iconic branding of the original EQT period, which featured large 3-stripe branding and unique colour blocking. This is probably one of my favourite eras of Liverpool shirts, those 1993, 94, 95, 96 Adidas shirts. So I'm really looking forward to see what this new stuff looks like. So far, I've liked most of the Adidas stuff that Liverpool have brought out this year. I was a little bit underwhelmed with the training kit around the third shirt. I expected a bit more retro look to some of those things, but other than that, I've been blown away by how class the Adidas stuff has been. Tanya said Craig will be skint. Oh, definitely Tanya. It's yeah. I prefer it to Nike though. I do. I just prefer the Adidas stuff. Right, Mohamed Salah now joined third on all-time goal involvements in the Premier League. So we know he's put up 250 goals for Liverpool Football Club, but now he joined third place. Alan Shearer is top of the list with 324 goal involvements in 441 matches. Then comes Wayne Rooney with 311 goal involvements in 491 matches. Now it's Frank Lampard and Mohamed Salah with 279 goal contributions, albeit Lampard played 609 matches and Mo has done it in 311. So more records there to be broken for the great man, and who knows where he ends up on that all-time list. I don't think anybody is going to catch Alan Shearer, but you never know, he could move up there one more place. is the studio going to be like your man cave, or do you already have a man cave? Dude, I live in a council house, a small 3-bedroom council house. There's no man cave space in here. Hence the reason I'm in the corner of the living room at the minute. The studio will be for work. You know, it'll be set up with a few different options for us. Green screen, non-green screen, standing up, sitting down. So yeah, just variations of content really. There'll be lots of Liverpool memorabilia in it, alright, but it'll be for work. Hi Craig, top 3 most beautiful places in Ireland. Also, there's a lot I haven't seen. You know, if I was saying to somebody coming to Ireland, where would you go? Definitely come down towards Wexford, Waterford. Beautiful part where I live, down this part of the country. Cork, Kerry, magnificent. Galway, beautiful. Yeah, just anywhere around the coast is what I would say. North, south, east, west, anywhere around the coast is, not that there isn't some lovely stuff in the Midlands, but you can't go wrong, really. Craig, have you had a change to your prediction after manager's press conference? No, Raz, I think 2-2. I think I'm comfortable with the 2-2. And I take a 2-all draw right now, mate. Maybe ask me after we see the team selection from the manager tomorrow. I'll have probably a better idea of how confident or not I feel. But yeah, I think a 2-all draw. I'll take that now. Ever been to Cavan? Briefly. Right, more news. Let's keep going. So, let's talk about Ref Watch and why it's a waste of fucking time. Shall we? I don't know why they bother with Ref Watch, because Dermot Gallagher pretty much backs up referees no matter what happens. And himself and Jay Bothroyd often disagree on stuff, and I tend to fall down on the side of Jay Bothroyd in these conversations, because I think Gallagher's just a yes man and doesn't want to piss off his mates, basically. So this is what he said about the Alexis McAllister incident, where he was grabbed around the neck and thrown to the ground by Onana. Gallagher said this: the fact they were pushing and shoving each other and all right, he's raised his arm, probably a bit higher than he wanted, but he's pushing. Stewart's got to decide, is it violent? Is it an act of brutality? He said no. He's obviously relayed that to the VAR, what he's seen, and VAR's checked it back. The referee said, yellow card only. Nah, sorry man, that's violent conduct. He put his 2 hands or his hand around his throat and pushed him to the ground. That's violent conduct. Hands to the face, violent conduct. The absolute mental gymnastics that Gallagher's trying to go through here to justify the referees once again not doing their damn job is a disgrace. At least Jay Bothroyd calls shit out as he sees it. This is what Mr. Bothroyd had to say. As much as I like a physical game, I look at this situation, I'm like, if somebody puts their hand on my throat in the street like that, you're going to get an aggressive reaction from me. So in that instance, I'm saying that should be a red card, because obviously McAllister can't do that, right? McAllister has made the most of it. He's gone down. That's probably because if he reacts, he'll get a red card too. So I definitely agree with Jay Bothroyd on this. 1, he's a former player, but 2, he's right. If somebody puts their hands around your throat on the street and shoves you down, you're going to be angry about it. How on earth we're supposed to believe that that wasn't a red card, I don't know. And it's not like it didn't continue after it. There were 2 or 3 more occasions. It's a piss take. And these arseholes tell us to have respect for referees, even when they're blatantly just looking out for their own. That was a red card. It was violent conduct, open and shut. The fact that VAR didn't do it once again just shows that they're not fit for their fucking job. It was open and shut. Like, if I'm supposed to believe that Curtis Jones rolling his foot over the top of a ball is a red card in the game against Spurs, I think it was, then tell me how that's not a red card. You know? Again, it's just hypocrisy. We're always told no hands to the face, no hands around there, hands around the neck, pushed to the ground, and that's not a red. I'm sorry, it's nonsense. And if referees want respect, like anything else, it's got to be earned. It's got to be earned. And that is another bullshit decision. David said, hi Craig, hope you're well, bro. Proud of you. You inspire me, mate. What player are Liverpool looking to sign? Look, for me to tell you an absolute 100% bona fide, we want this person outside of Mark A, I couldn't be that confident, David. Semenyo is one definitely worth keeping an eye on. There was, a fair few journalists said that Liverpool did weigh up whether to make a bid this summer. But again, the consensus seemed to be that we didn't want to block the pathway of Rio Ngamoa. I think it's a mistake. Um, Captain hindsight here, fair enough, but I do think it's a mistake because if you look at the options we have now, we've 4 options up top because the manager won't start Chiesa and Rio Ngamoa isn't really ready yet to be playing week in, week out. So we got rid of Diaz and we never replaced them. And we don't have somebody on the right who can battle with Mo. We'll all say Chiesa, but the manager doesn't feel that way. So I think we need to bring in a wide forward because we're lacking pace in attack. We're lacking directness in attack. And I think somebody like Semenyo, Elise, somebody of that ilk would be a good acquisition. Unfiltered Run With It said, refs' mistakes this season are so ridiculous. It's crazy. It's just crazy. The double standards and hypocrisy of some of these decision making from referees is just ridiculous. And the fact that they've put Michael Oliver once again on VAR for Liverpool Manchester City, where he's already negatively impacted that game on at least one occasion, I just don't agree with it. And it's like they sometimes just feel like they're trying to fucking wind us up. It's just wrong for me for this one. Just wrong to have Oliver on VAR, but these people aren't accountable to anybody, and that's what winds me up. Let me talk you through something here. So there's a referee in Germany who's made some suggestions that he'd like to see happen in football, and every single one of these, in my opinion, are just about them wanting more respect from players. And I get that, but it's a two-way street. So German referee Patrick Ittrich has suggested making several changes to football's rules. These are the changes he suggests. For a tactical foul in midfield, a free kick should be awarded 17 metres from goal. And he said, how often will you see such fouls then? Well, how about the referees just start booking players like they're fucking supposed to for these? Because I've counted so many times this season where we've had a counter-attack where we've been stopped and they haven't seen the booking, or they've played on and not come back for the booking. So, again, let's not start looking to objectively change all the rules to stop stuff when you're not using every tool at your disposal already. He also said, number 2, if the player rolls on the floor 3 times and needs a doctor, get him one and make him wait on the sideline for 3 minutes. How quickly do you think the player would stand up? So he subjectively pulled 3 times out of his arse there. For what reason? I don't know. But we all know players feign injury. We know, but the referees don't have to stop the game unless it's a head injury. So I still don't understand the point he's trying to make there, especially when we see that clown that was refereeing the Galatasaray game for us stop the game every time Victor Osimhen had an itchy foot. Victor Osimhen just dropped to the ground and no head injuries, and the ref was stopping the game and it was breaking up our play. So again, referees want everything going in their favour. Do their fucking job right. Simple. Do your job right. Number 3, he said, if a player insults the referee, send them off for 10 minutes to calm down. Go cycling to warm up before coming back on. We can learn from handball in that respect. So this is one thing that I do actually feel I agree with him on. Referees shouldn't be insulted by a player. And I do like the idea that the captain is the only one that can talk to the referee. Maybe the player involved in the incident and the captain, but nobody else. But again, let's see this enforced properly. Because I don't want to see 10 Manchester City players surrounding a referee and nothing happening, but 3 other players from another club doing it and the referee suddenly getting brave and getting his yellow card out. So let's implement what's there. But of course, nobody should be insulting a referee. And a 10-minute red card, I mean, what's probably going to happen at that point is the game becomes boring for 10 minutes because one team's just going to sit back and defend. So I don't know if a sin bin in that scenario would actually work. I do think just stay on the line of only the captain and the player involved in the incident can talk, and start lashing out yellow cards for anybody else who comes up and has something to say, because they shouldn't, basically. And, it needs to be addressed from an early age. What always strikes me about rugby, and I don't play the game, is that they call the referee sir. And the referee's word is gospel. That's it. No talking back. You might not agree with it, but it's gospel. So I do get where they're coming from on that. But it needs to start from an underage level all the way up. And Fourth, he said, how is a referee surrounded by 10 men after a decision? In my opinion, boom, 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 3 red cards, play 7 against 10 now, that'd be fine by me. I think 3 red cards, boom, 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 is going a little bit over the line there, but certainly start flashing yellows very quickly. But you want to see it done consistently. Even when you're at a ground where the crowd are vocal and the crowd are on your back, you got to have the balls as a referee to do exactly what's set out in the rules. Because how many times do we see something implemented every season? The PGMOL sit there every year and come up with some new fad that they're going to enforce at the start of the season, whether it's no wrestling from corners, whether it's the goalkeeper hanging onto the ball for 10 seconds and it's a corner if he does. It doesn't get enforced enough. It's done for the first 2-3 weeks, then everybody reverts back to type. And I also don't know how legally, and I mean legally, I don't know how the fuck they can get away with this handball rule the way they have it. Because they referee handballs differently for attackers and defenders, and the law's not written that way. There should be no subjectivity to a handball. Football will always have some subjectivity to it, but there should be no differential between a defender handling it or a forward handling it. It's a handball. A handball is a handball. The rules are written in one way. They're interpreted however the PGMOL want them to be for that season, and it does my head in. It does my head in. And then you go into the Champions League and you're seeing penalties given for things that aren't getting given in the Premier League. How is that helpful to anybody? You want continuity across football. One rule, one way it's enforced, and everybody knows what's up. You can't have different leagues going in their own direction because it just sets teams up for problems when you go into Europe. Billy Beckner said, we need to normalise not making refs global celebrities and have them just focus on football. Exactly. So we hear all of this from the likes of Sky and TNT and all, and then they wheel out Ref Watch. When VAR came in, all that they've done is turn these referees into pseudo-celebrities. And then again, talk about how hard the job is. Well, you're glorifying them. You're putting them up on a pedestal. We shouldn't even know these lads' names. Brad said, as much as I love Trent, I hope the crowd strike fear into him and let Madrid know where they are. 3-1 Liverpool win. Hugo to shine tomorrow night. Come on, you Reds. Well, I don't think Trent's going to start the game anyway, Brad. So hopefully he has to look on as Liverpool do their thing. Definitely think the crowd will be up for it, mate. No idea what to expect score-wise. Love your optimism on Hugo, though. And fingers crossed you get that result, because I take a 3-1 win very happily. Corbin said, a centre-back for me in January and make more big signings in January? Or I don't know if you meant in the summer there, but you said a centre-back for me in January and make more big signings in January. I feel like more new players will make Arna's job more difficult, seeing already players struggling. I'm not sure, though, how... I kind of have a back and forth in my mind about the struggling being down to the new players or not, because if you look at the teams we're putting out, often there's 2 new players in those teams, maybe 3 at a push. So what I think is, and I didn't realise this in the summer until somebody pointed it out when I started looking back through, we didn't really build out the squad anymore. Then we pretty much just tried to upgrade positions, but we didn't really build it out to give us the depth that perhaps we would have needed. So I guess if you look and contrast Arsenal's summer business and our summer business, ours was more trying to improve starting 11 levels, maybe with a bit of depth, whereas Arsenal kind of went to fill out their squad with a whole host of players that they could... Like, how many centre-backs do Arsenal have at the minute? It feels like they've got never-ending amounts. Like, Nkapie gets brought in as a backup, basically. Corbin said, meant the summer. I get where you're coming from in January. So I look at January signings in 2 ways, and it depends why you need the player. So part of me thinks bringing a player in January and then they're ready to go for the next season. So you've got the January till the summer to get them up to speed at the club, and then they get a proper full pre-season in, and then they're flying by the next year. Whereas if you get somebody in the summer, it takes a bit longer. But then on the other side of it, you do have the point of, are these players going to be able to come in January, midway through the season, and make a difference? The centre-back thing, though, I agree with you on, Corbin, because it's just a numbers thing. We just don't have enough. Jason said Robbo versus Trent or Mo versus Trent. That's going to be great. I think we win 4-1. Trent, I don't think starts the game, so I think we're going to see Trent on the bench. Whether he comes on or not, that remains to be seen. But he's not going to be starting the game with the looks of it. Phil Doc said, "Hey Craig, hope you're well. Who do we get in January transfer window? Thoughts?" So a centre back. After that, I'm not expecting much more business. You know, you could definitely make the argument for an attacker, but yeah, centre back's the minimum. If we don't bring in a centre back in January, I mean, I'm not going to be happy. Put it that way. Would you class January as desperation or another way? It depends on the individual circumstances, Brad. You know, if you're not in the league position you want to be in January, then yeah, maybe you're desperate because you want to make up points or you want to stave relegation off or something like that. Then it comes down to the injury situation. So for us, the injury to Giovanni Leone has only underlined the fact we need to get a centre-back in. So some of both is probably the answer. A little bit of desperation, a little bit of opportunisticness as well. If somebody's available that, you know, you feel is too good of an offer to turn down or too good of an opportunity to turn down. But I just worry for the rest of the season if we don't get a centre-back, because we know Canade can pick up muscle injuries. We've been lucky that Virgil has been injury-free since his ACL pretty much. And Gomez just doesn't look like he's at the level needed. So we're really, 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 really short there. Paul Owen said, Craig, we have to start with the same 11, then change if things go wrong. Well, we definitely have to get to the point, Paul, where the manager knows his best 11. I agree with you on that. The more I've thought about Chris's 11, the more I would probably change my own 11 for the game tomorrow. So my 11, if I remember correctly, was Mamadashvili, Bradley, Canade, Verge, Kirkes, Gravenberch, Soboslai, Wirtz, Chiesa left, Salah right, Ekitike centre. But the more I've thought about what Chris said on the podcast, the more I agree with Chris. I'd probably go with the same midfield three that played against Villa and push Wirtz out to the left. Not because I want to drop Gakpo. I got to make that clear. This isn't about dropping. It's about resting Cody Gakpo because we've got a big game coming up then against Manchester City on Sunday. So keep the midfield, push Wirtz out to the left. And again, I think you play Kirkes for two reasons. One, he has the pace to maybe try to match what Real Madrid bring down that right-hand side. But also, Robbo can't really play 4 games in 13 days. And Robbo is the better left-back right now. So I'd rather have him for Man City. Where are we at? Sorry, just going through some of the comments. Macy man, anybody understood why Slot said, I've got to be very careful with my words when asked about Soboslai's versatility during today's press conference? No. The only thing I can think of is maybe he feels like something he said recently has been taken out of context or something like that. But I have no idea what he would have meant by saying that. Yeah, that's all I can think of because, you know, Dom should be only getting praise. He's been brilliant this year. So unless there's something Arne feels he's been done dirty with in a comment before. Jacob MCC says, do you think we win the league? No, I don't. I think Arsenal win the league. I'm being honest. You know, before the season, yes, I really did think we were most likely going to retain the league. But what we've seen this year, apart from our own instability, is Arsenal's defensive solidity is super impressive. Like, they're just not conceding goals. And, you know, if you not conceding goals and you manage to muster yourself a set piece or 1 goal, you know, you're going to do well. And they've turned a 5-point deficit into a 7-point advantage over us. And we have Manchester City away on Sunday. You know, if we beat Manchester City away on Sunday, bit more confidence might creep back in. But, you know, it's a big leap of faith to say I think we can chase down a 7-point deficit as we sit here right now with the form we've been in. It just doesn't feel I'm being fair to say that. That's my honest answer. I want us to do it, of course I do, but I think I'd just be deluded to sit here and say, yeah, I think we're going to win the league still, because we have to earn the right to be back in that conversation. I know we're in third place now in the league, which is grand and all, but we're still 7 points behind. Brad said, if you had to set a price tag in January for Semenyo, what your price tag be if Bournemouth willing to sell? So the number seems to be about 70 based off reporting. We did sign a new contract. No idea if there's a clause in that contract or not. Even if there was, I doubt it will come into effect that early. It'd usually be for at least a year or two down the line. 70 sounds about right, probably. Wouldn't be my number one choice. That would be Elise, but again, I don't think you're going to get him at a Bayern anytime soon. So 70 million feels about right. Arsenal have Sunderland away on Saturday. Look, like I said, we have to earn the right, in my opinion, to be back in this conversation. And we haven't earned that right yet. J. Bob Sad said, Craig, I think Arsenal might choke after the international break. They have Chelsea, Spurs and Bayern in a week. Look, I hope they do. Look, if they have a wobble and we're still there and we're close enough to strike, brilliant. Bring it on. But I'm just trying to be honest and fair in what I've seen so far. I'm almost pinning my hopes that we can pull a PSG and, come good for the latter part of the Champions League and, see how we get on there. Because if we do click, I think that's probably our best chance. Scott said we need a centre-back instead. 100% do. That's definitely the priority, Scott. I was just answering the gentleman's question because he mentioned Semenyo and a price. But if I was to pick out one position, Scott, and say, this is where we sign a player, I'm with you, mate, centre-back. So, let me ask a poll to you guys then. Right, so I've answered it, but let's see you guys answer. Do you think we can still win the league this year? So we'll revisit this. We've about 15-20 minutes left tonight, so we'll revisit that before we finish up, but you let me know what you think. Look, I'd love to sit here and say yes. I'd love to be the optimistic, upbeat fan to say yes, but it needs to be a sensible conversation, and I don't think we're there yet. How can you lose 6 and 7? Oh, well, sorry, now 6 and 8. And sit here and confidently talk about overhauling a 7-point gap when you've made a 12-point swing in 1 month. Scott said, fair play, brother. Appreciate you, mate. Thank you, Scott. Do you think Gay still wants Liverpool? Yeah, it's Jared. It's a question, dude, I've been asking myself over and over and over again, because I told you guys all summer that was the one position I didn't really have any information on in the summer. I knew what was happening with Wirtz and a few other things that I was able to be very confident on it. And, I said to you guys, Ekitike will happen, Kirkus will happen, Wirtz will happen, 100%. I never had the info on centre-back, so I never knew how strong Gay's preference was. Was it the fact that Liverpool came in with an offer that Palace accepted and it was a big jump up in his career, or was Liverpool a club that he just really, really, really wanted to join? I don't know the answer to that, so I haven't got a clue whether I should be optimistic or not, Jared, to be honest, about Gay. I'm more nervous about it because if we don't get him and Kanade leaves, it's going to be another important summer where we've bring in 2 top-notch centre-backs. Dantirius said, I swear the set pieces will stop going in for Arsenal and Arteta's brain will go. The sad thing is the gap we gave them because the pressure, what cracks Arsenal and Arteta. Look, I hope they have a wobble and, every team's capable of it, because if you ask me, were we going to have the month we just had, I would have said no, didn't see it coming. Maybe, one or two results, but, it's going to be interesting if they do have a wobble to see how they react to it, because, they've built to win this season, and if they don't win one of the two big ones, Arteta's going to be under pressure. Hugo said, still too early to think about winning the league. Let's see how things are in the new year. So I'm a big believer in you can't win the league at this time of the year, but you can lose the league at this time of the year. And that's kind of where I think we're at. I think we've done a little bit too much damage to haul back those points. That's my honest view of it. If we were in Arsenal shoes right now, if I'm Arsenal, I'm worrying more about Manchester City than Liverpool, because, we haven't shown that stability yet. The manager has to stop playing players who are not in form, like Kirkus and Wirtz. If he played the original 11, Liverpool wouldn't be in this position. I get where you're coming from, but I don't think we can absolve the players of any responsibility either. We all sit here and we talk about the manager's selections and whatnot. That's fair enough, but the players have underperformed to some degree as well in certain key positions. So I think it's a collective failure, which is something I've been saying for a couple of weeks now. I don't think there's any one thing that we can flick a switch and say this will stop it. I think everybody just needed to be better, and that starts with the work rate, as Robbo said. That starts with the effort, and we've seen that against Villa. World of Natural said, agree, that's why I was so disappointed with Slot did not find solutions after the first two losses and let the losses continue. Yeah, I've certainly, I understand. Like, I want ruthlessness in my manager, so I get where you're coming from. But I'm at a point now where I'm not really as concerned about Slot as I was a week ago. Because my big concern wasn't the manager, it wasn't the quality of players we brought in, it was where they're going to still play from. Had something happened and he'd lost the players. That was my big worry. And I've seen enough against Villa now to know that no, the players are still playing there for him and the shirt. So with that, whatever happens over the next week or so, I'm not going to be getting to that point where I say I want the manager out, because I've seen enough of fight from the players. Now, of course, anything's possible. Like if we were to lose 5-0 tomorrow when we're whooped 4-0 by Manchester City or something like that, then maybe this becomes a different conversation. But I'm feeling far more calm about the bigger picture than I was a week ago. Arthur said, do you like Schlotterbeck for January? I like Schlotterbeck for whenever. Would Borussia Dortmund be willing to sell him mid-season? I don't know the answer to that. Would he want to move mid-season? Because this is another really important thing in a World Cup year. Do players want to move mid-season and potentially put at risk their form and their options to start in a World Cup or to be selected? So, lots of moving pieces. John said, I disagree, Craig. There's no chance that 9-10 players are all bad simultaneously. It has to be the system and what they asked to do. So, alright, maybe I didn't word my answer as well as I would have liked to. I definitely feel that the manager could have done things differently. Yes. I definitely think that the manager was showing faith to people who maybe shouldn't have been deserving of those starting places. Don't get me wrong on that. Certainly there are players who I feel like weren't held to account for their failing performances, but sometimes it's because there aren't really any other options. So the Salah situation, there's no competition there for Mo. None. So, what you're going to do if there's no competition? And you can say Chiesa, but the manager doesn't think that way. So that's not going to be the case. I would use Dominic Szoboszlai as the counterbalance here to say, when we did have pressure, when Wirtz came in and all of a sudden it looked like maybe Dom's place was under a bit of stress, what did he do? Knuckle down, start playing much better, and shown that he wants to be here and he's not giving up that jersey. So I think the fact that we don't have enough competition across some positions is adding to the problem. Also, sometimes I feel like, and I'm only speaking for me because I don't want to put words in your mouth, sometimes I feel like it doesn't matter to Arne as much as I'd want it to. And that's unfair of me, because just because he's not effing and swearing and bleeping and emotional about it doesn't mean he doesn't care. But I'm used to seeing a manager that is emotive on the sideline and lives and breathes it like we do. So sometimes when things aren't going well and I see Arne in an interview and he goes to a more calm demeanour and starts making excuses I don't agree with, that rubs me up the wrong way as well. But that's not his problem, that's a me problem. You know, I just I got so used to a manager out there living and breathing every ball, you know, just being as pissed off as I am when things aren't going well and showing that emotion publicly. When you've got your captain and your manager who are very Dutch, let's just say, in their demeanours, in their thought processes, that's not me. I'm not that type of person. I don't react to that kind of leadership. I need someone in my face screaming or, you know, telling me what I'm doing wrong. I don't know if anybody else feels that way about the manager or not, but this is another. I hate that he wears navy. I fucking hate that he wears navy on the sideline, and I don't know why. I feel like if you're a manager and you're not going to be wearing the club gear, you should be wearing black. But I also feel like managers should be there in club gear on the sidelines. Again, that's just another me thing. You're out there on a football pitch, dude. You know, get the boots on, get a pair of tracky bottoms on, get a hoodie and a jacket on, and march up and down that sideline. Keane said, I love Jurgen. Arne not being him isn't a bad thing. He's just different. Yeah, different, exactly. And I just don't connect in the same way to that type of personality. But that's just a me thing, like I've said. Unfiltered, run with it, said, same Craig, I want more emotions from Arne. Joe said, I love that Arne wears navy. I hate it. I don't know why. It's such a stupid thing to be annoyed by. But I just don't like it because one, it's navy, it's closer to Everton, it winds me up. And two, I don't know. I just want my manager there in a hoodie or a jacket and a pair of tracky bottoms, or, you know, being willing to almost get down and get dirty with the players, if you get me, like. Michael said Arne does show emotions. Of course, everyone shows emotions, but not enough for me. Like, he's not going to pull a Jurgen Klopp, is he? And look like he's about to take a bite out of somebody. He's so angry, you know. He's more measured than that. But of course, he's going to be annoyed, same as anybody else with certain things. But I don't think he's the same bundle of emotions that Jurgen was. Would I swap Cherky with Wirtz now? No, and that whole Cherky's nowhere. Cherky's not fit to lace up Florian Wirtz's boots. If we wanted Cherky, he'd have been a Liverpool player because he was dying to join Liverpool. The comparisons are just ridiculous. Like, there's a reason one of them went for 30 odd million quid or whatever it was, and the other one went for 115. Because Wirtz is far the better player. Will be, has been, always will be, much, much the better player. So no, I wouldn't swap Cherky for, I don't know, pick somebody who's semi-decent. I wouldn't swap him for, I put him on the same level as Harvey Elliott, in my mind. That's the level I put Cherky at. Just not enough consistency either for me. Grizzly, thank you for gifting 5 memberships, mate. Appreciate you. I feel the players will benefit a bit more from picking up from the manager's energy on the sidelines. Again, everybody be inspired by different things. Some people love an arm around the shoulder. Some people want very precise, calm, tactical information. And I think it's just about knowing that individual. Like, one really good example of this I can give you is the cornerman work in boxing or in the UFC. Some players, or some fighters, excuse me, need anger. They need shouted at. They need to be snapped out of what they're doing and focused. And others need calm, small bits of information. And it depends on what suits you. Goldilocks said, I agree with you, Craig. All the staff should be in footy gear. I don't understand why managers want to wear suits for a match. So yeah, going to the stadium, no problem. But out there on the touchline, I don't know, I want my manager in footy gear. And it's probably because I'm a chaff. That's probably why. Jason Curry said, Craig, I think Macca will go and we'll get Wharton, Gay and Semenyo in January. There's absolutely no chance that Crystal Palace get rid of Gay and Wharton in January. None. Zero. That absolutely isn't going to happen. Macca, I feel he will go, but I think it'll be next summer at the earliest. Maybe a year more. Paul said, is Salah underperforming because he's finally got some pressure because of the signings Isak, Ekitike and Wirtz? Again, hard to say. I don't think the answer to the Salah form question is there is one answer. The Trent relationship not being there is important. New teammates in and around him is important. What happened with Diogo is important. And when the team in itself isn't performing well and he's not getting the ball in the same areas that he could do the damage in before, I think all of these things combined are the reason why. I'm not a believer in one thing being the answer. But he was amazing against Aston Villa. Absolutely phenomenal. That's a Mo I haven't seen as good in possession, even last year when he was breaking records. Like, that was a Mo who was skinning people. He had Luca Digne on toast, and the touches and the confidence and the body strength, it was really rolling back the years. And hopefully he can keep up that form, because when the press is good and when Mo's playing well, the team automatically follows. Craig, would you rather see Arnott in Everton blue on the sidelines or being full Liverpool kit? Well, he's basically in Everton blue in my eyes in the Navy, which is why it winds me up. Barry said Anderson from Forest would be good replacement if Macca left. Have you seen the price tag? £120 million apparently, dude, is the Elliot Anderson price, which is way too high. Salah's getting used to new players, said Keane, and forming relationships with them, plus Dom, who he knows inside out, got moved to right back. Like I said, there's lots of things that added to the form of Salah. But I again want to go back to the summer, where the point of the signings we made were that we wouldn't have to be reliant on Mo to do those type of numbers. The whole point of our summer transfer business from an attacking sense was that load was spread around. Craig, do you agree in that I believe we don't lose both these games? I think we'll win one and draw one. Honestly, I think we lose at the Etihad. Maybe if we put in another great shift tomorrow and it looks like we've turned the corner, perhaps. But we're hearing that Oliver's on VAR for that game as well. That's worried me. And it's a difficult place to go at the best of times. If we can stop Haaland, we stop Manchester City. So it'll be interesting to see how that battle goes between Virgil, Canade and Haaland. But if I feel more optimistic for tomorrow than I would for Sunday. Ian said, if you could bring one player in January to push them on, who would it be? It has to be a centre-back. So Mark Gay, Ousmane Diomande, a centre-back. It has to be a centre-back in January, because we're in dire need of depth there. Craig, if somehow Wirtz does not fit in Sloth's system, so are you happy to swap him with additional cash with Michael Elise? No, because we've got to make it work. And Slot bought him, so he's got to make it work. He's too good of a player for it not to work eventually. So I don't want to get rid of Wirtz. Wirtz is a Liverpool player. I want to see him in their shirt for the next 6, 7, 8 years. I want to see him destroying defenses for the next 6, 7, 8 years. I love Elise, by the way, but I don't want rid of Wirtz. Full stop. I love him, and I think he's not quite there yet, but I really have no doubts that we will see Florian Wirtz thrive in the Premier League. Baleba, because he can play both 6 and centre back. So I think Baleba is going to go to United. That's, they've put the hard yards in there, and, they're still talking Carlos Baleba. So I don't know if they'll be able to get to the number that Brighton want, but that's where I feel Carlos Baleba ends up. Kush said, give Slot until Christmas. He thinks sticking to the same plan each and every game works. Big result against Villa, giving us some confidence for tomorrow. Look, I just want us to turn it around, mate. Whether it's the manager that does it, the players that do it, everyone that does it, we all just want Liverpool to get back to the team we know we are. So hopefully, we can start to climb this mountain now step by step, because it's been a horrendous last month. And I didn't see it coming, and it really surprised me how quickly we fell apart. So yeah, as we said many times, the biggest test of Arna's career so far, and I hope he's up to it. Seems like Flo has more success and creativity in the Champions League. Well, it's because he's probably more used to that competition and style of football. He won, I think, was it 4 or 5 player of the match awards in the Champions League last season, more than anybody else. And it's probably a more slower style of football with regards to the physicality of it than he gets in the Premier League. I think that's all it is with him. He's just getting used to the rigours of the Premier League and the physicality of the Premier League. And when he does, I think he'll be brilliant. Colin said, I'm shocked at your praise for Wirtz. So I'm not praising Wirtz. So I'm not saying Wirtz is tearing up the Premier League now, Colin. I'm saying I have no doubts he'll come good. And I am seeing improvements in him. But there's just no doubt. Like, look at everybody in the world. Like Alonso saying he's too good to fail. Slot saying he's too good to fail. He just is too good. I think this is a really clear example, Colin, of somebody who's just taken time, but will come good. I've no doubt about that in my mind, mate. Now, I'm not trying to say he's done it now, or we should be happy with his performances now, but I just don't have any doubts that it will work. He has the most man of the match awards in the group league phase in the history of the competition. So yeah, hopefully it does suit him tomorrow, and big platform against Real Madrid as well. And if he can show up there, it'll go a long way to building confidence. Right, ladies and gents, let's end this poll where we asked, do you think we can still win the league this year? 55% of you said yes, and 45% of you said no. So appreciate that. Right, I will see you tomorrow. Connor will be putting out a news video in the morning. There is a video coming out in 12 minutes on the channel here, a bit of a press conference update where I take you through what Arna said ahead of the game and what Alonso said. I'll be here tomorrow at 6:45 for the watch along. As always, appreciate your support tonight. Thank you for dropping in. If you can, please do drop a like on the stream, and enjoy yourselves. And I'll see you tomorrow. Big game, and fingers crossed for a good result. We'll talk soon.